Okay guys, so this is going to be a review of some of the stuff we've done in class. So the line that goes around the circle, we know that this is called the circumference. The other bit of key information we need to know is the center of a circle is called the origin. We also know that a line that goes from the origin to one edge is called the radius. And if that line is completed, so if the line actually goes even longer, if it goes through the origin and continues through to the rest of the circle, so it goes all the way through, this line is known as the diameter. So these are our main parts of the circle that we're going to deal with. There are chords and arcs and other things, but we'll talk about that another time. So whenever we're looking for the circumference, so we want to know how long the outside of the circle is, there are two formulas that we deal with. One is if we know what the radius is. Our formula is 2 times pi times the radius. And that will give us the circumference. Now, if we are dealing with the diameter, so if we have the diameter, our formula will be pi. Our formula will be pi times the diameter, and that will also give us the circumference. Now, we already talked about this in class, but when we're dealing with pi is equal to 3.14, and we also know that the relationship of pi comes from the relationship that exists between the diameter and the circumference. So we talked about that in class. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to try and solve some problems that have either the radius or the diameter. Now, the other thing that I want you guys to remember is that the radius, okay, so when we're talking about the radius is equal to, okay, so the radius is, sorry, I'm having trouble guys. Radius is, so if we have the radius twice, so 2 times the radius will give us the diameter. Okay? And by that same rationale, if we have half the diameter, that will give us the radius. So the radius is half the diameter, and the diameter is 2 times the radius, so it's double the radius. It's important that you guys know that, and you don't have brain issues like me. So let's go take a look at one of the problems that we have. Now, if we know that the radius of a circle is 14.3 millimeters long, how do we find the circumference? Well, we know that our formula for that, for radius, is 2 times pi times the radius, and that will give us the circumference. So if we go and try this out, so we take 2 times pi times 14.3 millimeters. We do that, so 2 times pi times 14.3, we get 89.84 millimeters. Now, if you decided to go 2 times, sorry, we said we're not allowed doing that anymore, 2 times 3.14, which is the same thing as pi, times 14.3, we'll get a similar answer. Okay, so we'll get a similar answer. We'll get 89.804. The difference is so small that don't worry. Okay, so don't let that worry you too much. If you don't have a pi button on your calculator, you can use 3.14. So that's how we'd figure out if we had the radius. Now, if they gave us the diameter, okay, so if we have the diameter, Well, we take a look. So we know that the diameter, well, we know that our formula for diameter is pi times diameter will give us the circumference. So we go pi times 7.2, so we're just doing a substitution, equals, so we just go pi times 7.2, so that's going to give us 22.61 meters. Always remember to put in your units. Okay, you could have also gone 3.14 times 7.2, which is your diameter, and you would have gotten 22.60. Like I said, close enough that if you don't have your calculator, you can use 3.14. Okay, now let's go try one where we work backwards. Okay, so this one, we know the circumference of the circle is 11.68. So we're told what the circumference is, right? So we know what that is. So the circumference is 116.8, and they're asking us to find the diameter. So they want us to work backwards. So if we know that pi times the diameter equals 116.8, we do the same stuff that we did in algebra to solve for D, because we're looking for the diameter. So what we would do is we put pi over 1, do the reciprocal, which is 1 over pi, 1 over pi. Pi divided by pi will give me 1, 1 divided by 1 will give me 1, which has now isolated my diameter. 1 divided by 1 is 1, and 116.8 divided by pi gives me 37.17 centimeters. So we've worked backwards, we figured it out using already the circumference. That's to work backwards. The other way you can work backwards, this is working backwards algebraically. The other way you could work backwards is we look at our formula again, which was pi times the diameter equals 116.8. Well, if I work backwards, the last thing I did was multiply. Both of these were multiplying. So if I go 116.8 divided by pi, I'll get my diameter, which is going to be 37.17 centimeters. Okay, so that's also working backwards. Now, if we're working backwards and we need to find the radius, well, we know that 2 times pi times the radius will give us the circumference, and our circumference in this case is 42.7 centimeters. We do the same thing. We treat this as a variable that we need to isolate. So we need to isolate radius. So we put 2 pi over 1, 42.7 over 1. We do the reciprocal of 2 pi. 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 pi divided by 2 pi is 1, which isolates my radius. 1 divided by 1 is 1, and 42.7. Okay, so 42.7 divided by pi is going to give me 13.59 centimeters, which gives me my radius. We can also do it the other way, like we just said. 2 times pi times the radius will give me 42.7. So working backwards, I can go 42.7 divided by pi divided by the radius will give me my answer. So 42.7 divided by pi, and then divided by the radius, which is, divided by 2, not by the radius. My mistake, guys. Divided by 2, because we're working backwards, will give us the radius. And if I divide by 2, whoops. So 42.7 divided by pi divided by 2 is going to give us our radius. okay, which is 6.79. Now what's the difference between here and here? What mistake did I make? Try and see if you can find it. Think about it. Here I did 42.7 divided by pi and divided by 2 and I got 6.79. Here I have 13.59 as my radius. So the important thing that I left out was I only divided by pi. You have to make sure that you divide by 2 and pi. So here I only divided by pi. If I divided by 2 and pi, I would have also gotten 6.79. So make sure when you do the reciprocal, you don't just divide by pi or divide by 2. This is together, it's 2 pi. It's 2 times 3.14. So this is the video on perimeter. I hope this is helpful. I'm going to make another one for you guys that's going to deal with area. It'll be up soon. Take care. Have a good time studying. I couldn't even say that without laughing. Have a good weekend, guys. I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.